So I remember being really girl crazy when I was a teenage boy. And it wasn't like an excessive girl crazy, it was a regular teenage boy girl crazy. And it's so funny when I think about those years of my life. I'm actually grateful to God that I didn't have the confidence to talk to women or girls back then because it probably would have got me in a lot more trouble than it did. And actually, let me say this. I was crazy about a couple of things when I was growing up. I was crazy about girls. I was crazy about gaming. I was crazy about my sports teams. And I was crazy about playing sports. Like, those were the four things that consumed my entire life. Notice how I didn't say I was crazy about God because I wasn't at that. I wasn't at that time. And I centered my emotions around those four things. Like, if anything bad happened regarding those four things, I wouldn't be able to function for like the rest of the day. I remember the first time I got heartbroken. It took me like a year to recover because I wasn't focusing my attention or my emotions on getting my emotions from God. Or my team would lose on a Sunday and I'd go to church and I'd be drumming and I wouldn't smile once. Like, I wouldn't be happy to, imagine you, praise and worship is my favorite part of any service and I wouldn't even be able to muster up a smile. But it wasn't until I got to college that I started to focus on my faith more. And I realized that the positive emotions that I want, and I want them to be sustained, are going to come from God. So I would always focus on moments of happiness, moments of just being able to smile. But it wasn't until I started building a relationship with God that I started focusing more on joy, like long-lasting, like positive emotion. Not even just that I'm smiling the whole time. Just I'm at peace. I'm content with whatever is happening in my life. And I remember, I remember this. I remember my team, Liverpool. We lost two Champions League finals. We lost one when I was in college and one when I left college, I think. We lost two of them. And the first one we lost when I wasn't as close to God as I am now, I felt like the world was crashing down. Like I couldn't move for days. I was just so angry, so disappointed, so upset. And it was just like, why? Like daily life is going to disappoint me. Why am I focused so much on one thing going right for me? And I would let little things happen throughout the day affect my emotion, affect my happiness, affect how I would react to different situations throughout the day. Like one thing happening in the morning would affect me until nighttime. Like it will affect how I interacted with my friends, affect how I acted in relationships, or with family. It would affect everything. I would let one thing dictate my entire emotional state. And I was reading Philippians 4 earlier, and it talked about the peace of God passes all understanding. And it's how you see people, they'll lose family members, or they'll lose a job, or they'll get in a car crash, or they get a bad injury, or they'll fall, just something will happen to them, and they'll react as if life is normal. They'll react as if they're just going through life the same way any of us that haven't experienced anything, as traumatic or as disappointing or sad have experienced. And one thing that I noticed with a lot of us is we place an emphasis on either people or things. Like maybe it's material things, maybe it's things like a job application comes back and we get denied and we're just miserable the whole day. We lose our job and we're miserable the whole day. We don't have enough money and we're miserable the whole day. Our relationship fails and we're miserable for weeks, for months, maybe even years. We let one thing spiral into other areas of our lives. I remember when I first really felt heartbreak, it affected my relationships moving forward for a period of time. It affected my relationship with God. It affected how I was in work. Like I was always thinking about how disappointed I was that this thing didn't work out. I placed so much of an emphasis on one thing or one person that I didn't even realize that if I'd focused that attention on the things of God or godly things or getting my feelings and emotions from God, that I would have avoided a lot of that disappointment. Now, when I became a Christian, when I became a serious Christian, one of the things that I thought was, now that I'm under the canopy of God, I'm protected from, anything happening to me. And Genesis talks about how that's literally not true. Like God will protect, God will give you what you need. It's up to you to do your part. And I just thought, oh, now that I'm a child of God, God will protect me from any bad thing happening. Whereas we're going to experience the same things that everybody else experiences. It's just a matter of dealing with it becomes easier. This is something that people say a lot when you become a Christian or believer. They say life doesn't become easier. It becomes easier to deal with life, right? So all the things that happened before I was a believer or before I was serious about God, they happened after I was serious about God. It just became so much easier to deal with those things. And a lot of us will go somewhere else for the source of our happiness or the source of our joy. So if something fails or something, drastically changes in our life, we'll turn to drugs and alcohol. We'll turn to sex. We'll turn to different things to try to make us feel good about ourselves again. And I've done this before too. You feel that high when you go to something, that induces that high, but you always come crashing back down. And in my life, I want a base level of peace. I want to be at peace. I want to be content with whatever happens in my life. And I know that I can't be in control of my emotions because the human mind, like my mind, I can't, it's the best way I can put it is you can't trust your feelings or your how you think too much. You can't rely too much on your own understanding because there's so much in the world that you just can't understand. The way people will behave, the way things will happen in the world, the way good people will suffer more than bad people, like in our view. And you can't understand why that makes any sense because it doesn't. But I stopped relying on my own understanding. I don't want to rely on my own understanding anymore. I don't want to try to figure out a way to get myself happy or to experience joy or to experience peace because it's just too much work. It's a lot easier for me to leave those things to God and allow Him to kind of dictate, how life goes. Obviously, I still have my own free will. I can still do what I want, but I want God to order my steps and ordain my steps wherever I want to go. I want that to be in God's control, not my own control, because from my experience, when I've let it be in my control and I've done things my own way, I've ended up more miserable. When I let God take control, it's easier to deal with things, and I get back to being at peace a lot sooner and without a lot more damage being done. And this all came about when my friend asked me, he was like, basically in short terms, he was like, what would you do if your YouTube didn't succeed? Or maybe you don't get the subscribers you want or the likes or things like that. And the old me, me 10 years ago would have probably been like, I don't know what I'll do. I'll just be so miserable and disappointed. I hate disappointing myself. I hate failure. I'm my harshest critic, yada, yada, yada. Me now, it wouldn't affect me in any way possible, like the same way. And I say that because I do believe that God has sent me on an errand to minister and preach the gospel, the way he wants me to. So whether that's 10,000 subscribers or 500, it doesn't really matter because the message will get across regardless, and it impacts somebody's life regardless. And as long as I can impact one person's life, then that's a success in my book. So basically, long story short, what I'm trying to say is we have to stop trying to figure out ways to get ourselves, at peace or find joy. We have a source, somebody that can literally give us all those positive, emotions, all those positive feelings, all those ways to deal with life. We have someone that can give that to us. My God is not limited by one thing, so I shouldn't limit myself to one thing, to one, thing going on throughout the day to make me happy or make me joyous. I have one person that can give me everything that I need in terms of dealing with life, dealing with my emotions, dealing with my mental state. I have somebody that can give me all of those things. So this is an encouragement for all of us. to not allow ourselves to get too caught up in the world, not allow ourselves to get too caught up in the things that are going on in the world or the things that are happening to us on a day-to-day basis, and letting it consume and absorb our entire life. Because we have somebody that can help us deal with all scenarios. Any scenario you could think of, God has dealt with it for somebody before in the past, and he can deal with it for you in the future. So that's my message to you guys today. Hope you have a blessed day. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe. Yes, please subscribe. Subscribe to the channel. If you like this video, share it, to whoever you want to share it to. Leave a comment below on what you think and maybe how you've dealt with things like this in the past, or disappointment or failure, or when you kind of start to see the peace of God in your life kind of just take over. And I will see you guys in the next video. Bye. Love you.